All right, everyone, thank you so much for joining in to this session of Kraftshala Live. This one is a little different than what we usually have done. Largely, we've spoken about topics in marketing. This one is a little more career forward. I'm very pleased to welcome Nandu Nandkishore to this discussion. For anyone who's unfamiliar with his profile, he and I met in Nestlé. Nandu retired from Nestlé in 2015. He retired as the executive vice president and the head of Nestlé's business in Asia, Oceania, and Africa. It's a large part of Nestlé's business. He was part of the global board there. He also headed the Nestlé Nutrition's global business for a bit. Since then, he has been involved with some of the leading business schools across the globe in teaching. He's also been mentoring a lot of startups, and we're very, very glad to have him here. How are you doing, Nandu, this evening?
Hi, Varun. Glad to be here with you. We had a family emergent.
Nandu, we just lost you.
We had to go to his funeral, and that meant we are now, so from the funeral, so we are on the road to Chandigarh, which means that I cannot switch my video on audio. I hope you can hear this.
All right. Nandu, we just lost you for a bit there. Would it be possible for you to revert? To try that one more time?
Yeah, sure. So what I was saying was, we had a bit of a family emergency. There was a young cousin who died. So we went to the funeral and are now driving back from Amritsar to Chandigarh. And therefore, I'm calling from the road, and therefore there's no video. So my apologies for that.
Sure. Please accept our condolences, Nandu, and we're very grateful that you've been able to spare time. So we could hear you clearly on this time. So the way we've structured this is in the initial few minutes, we thought that you'll speak a little bit about the insights that you have on this issue, and then we'll take in some questions that have come in to us. Is that okay?
Sounds good. So I will speak, and if you need me to repeat something, please let me know.
Sure.
So to start with, if you need to listen to what I have to say when you are no longer on the call, please feel free to visit my YouTube videos. You have to search for Insights with Nandu. I cover this topic as well as several other similar topics. So let me start by talking about career management. The three different areas I'd like to cover on career management. The first is how to plan your career. The second is how to get promoted. From a setback. All okay so far, Varun?
Yeah, Nandu, all okay.
You hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me? All okay. So first is how to plan a career, how to get promoted,
Sorry,
and
I
how to
don't get
recover
any
from a setback.
response, so I hope you can hear me.
Nandu, is my voice audible to you?
Yeah, now I hear. Now I heard you. Could you hear me?
Yeah, we could hear you. So three things you mentioned: how to plan a career, how to get promoted, and how to recover from a setback.
Let me get started. The first thing in planning a career is that it's a marathon. In my generation, careers lasted 40 years. In your generation, they may well last more because life expectancies are rising and people will wish to work longer. So, if it's a marathon, the first thing to do there is to stay healthy and to learn how to manage stress. So, the healthy part, I leave you to figure out using the advisors you have available to you. On managing stress, basically, managing stress has a few legs to it. Exercise helps, appropriate rest helps, having a support group helps, but apparently the most important part to managing stress is how you approach stress. Our bodies need a certain amount of stress to function at their best. So the research appears to indicate that it is in fact the attitude with which you approach stress that is more important than anything else. Approach it with a positive attitude as something that's going to help you be better, and chances are you will be in a good place in your ability to deal and cope with stress. So that's the first part. Plan your career as a marathon, not as a sprint. Varun, did you get that?
Everything.
Did you get that, Varun?
Yeah, Nandu, loud and clear.
Okay, thank you. So then we move to the second part, how to get promoted. And I speak from personal experience, having promoted hundreds of people to various positions of responsibility. The things one expects as a given when you wish to promote somebody, first, the person has to have a great deal of competency. So that is the aptitude, which is the first thing that people have to have, combined with a demonstrated ability to work hard. If you don't tick those two boxes, you will not be considered for promotion. However, those two boxes are not sufficient to guarantee promotion. What you need for promotion, in addition to hard work and aptitude, is the right attitude. And that attitude is not something that can be taught. It has to be something that comes from inside of you. When I say attitude, I mean, do you approach a situation as a glass half full or a glass half empty? Do you approach a problem with a positive mindset to look for a solution? Or do you approach it with cynicism to say, listen, this problem is so big, yeah, I'll try, but maybe it's not going to work? People are looking for leaders with a positive attitude to be problem solvers and to be people who can inspire their teams in turn. Did you get that, Varun?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay, then we come to the third part, which is how do you bounce back from a setback? Now, I look at my own career, and my career exceeded the wildest dreams I might have had when I started off. But throughout my career, there were ups and downs. And I expect in your careers, because they will be longer, you will have more ups and downs and fluctuations than I had in my career. So, the first thing to realize in this context is we are living in a world of incredible disruption. This means that there are old jobs that are being redundated all the time and new jobs that are being created all the time. So jobs we take for granted, like e-commerce or digital marketing, these jobs did not exist 20 years ago. And for people who learned marketing and advertising,
Nanda, we're just losing you a little
is
bit.
only going. Okay. Which
So
part do you wish me to repeat?
we got you till new jobs being created and e-commerce and digital marketing, and then after that the sentence trailed off.
Okay. So people who learned marketing and sales in the old school had to retrain themselves to the new reality or else become irrelevant. In this context, as the rate of change continues to accelerate, you will have to be prepared to retrain yourself on a continuous basis. So the most important skill for you to have and develop is continuous learning agility, curiosity, and a wide-ranging network that allows you to identify new emerging competencies before your old jobs get redundant. Be
Nandu, lost you again. Um, the last thing we heard was before your old jobs get redundant.
change. The only you have is to stay ahead of the curve.
Sorry, Nandu, we couldn't get that. Um, sorry, guys. For anyone who's joined in late, Nandu unfortunately is on the road right now. He had a personal emergency due to which he had to travel. So the network is a little patchy right now. So what I'd request is if you could hang around for a few seconds, and we'll let Nandu try one more time. Uh, and we did some testing during the course of the day before this session, which suggested that his internet was okay. So we should be able to get him back very quickly. Hi, Nandu, we can hear you now.
Okay, so we were talking about redundating and saying the only choice you have in today's reality is to continuously update your skills. That's the first thing. The next thing in this context is you will have a lot of ups and downs as a result of the rapid change of skill sets and technologies. Now, a very interesting take here on luck and bad events comes from the work that Jim Collins did and wrote about in his book, Great by Choice. So there he studies the impact of luck on companies. And that is easy to do because for most companies, both good luck events and bad luck events have to be reported in their quarterly reporting. So by studying quarterly reports, he could easily figure out how many good luck events a company had or bad luck events a company had. Event, if they're competitive. And to his surprise, he found that all companies had the same number of good luck events and bad luck events over a 20-year time period. What made the difference between the great companies and the also rans was what they did when the event happened. When the good luck event happened, were they able to maximize it? When the bad luck event happened, were they able to recover from it? This meant preparation in advance. This meant building capabilities in advance and being ready for opportunities when they came. I posit that same thing is applicable to individuals. Unless you have really bad karma, chances are you're going to have an equal number of good luck events and bad luck events in all your lives. So what makes the difference is how prepared you are for it, what capabilities have you built, and how you approach it. So being prepared, we talked about already, building your skill sets in the emerging technologies as and when they start to emerge. Building capabilities, you need to build some resilience capabilities from a financial point of view. Also, from a social point of view, have the network that can help you bounce back or take advantage. And most importantly, from an attitude point of view. From an attitude point of view, when ask yourself, no, it's normal to grieve, to mourn when bad things happen. That's okay. Take the time to mourn. Take the time to go out with your friends and do what you have to do. Take the time to curse your boss and say what a lousy person your boss is. All that is fine. But what is important then is to move on and say, now this thing has happened. Now, what are my strengths? What are my options? What can I do? Now, I'll give you a very philosophical insight here. And the philosophical insight comes from my own career. And when I look back over a 40-year career, one startling truth jumps out at me. And it's so startling, I don't believe it even today in hindsight. But the startling truth is this: of my biggest successes were always in my biggest problems and biggest failures. And that leads me to think that if I had not had those failures, and if I had not then challenged myself to turn that failure around and take the learning from it, then I would not have had my biggest successes. And this is so startling a realization that even now my rational brain refuses to accept it. But I believe there's something deeply philosophical in it. I read once a very nice a book written by Richard Bach, where he talks about precisely this insight. And he says, every problem comes to you bearing a gift. You seek problems because you seek the gifts they bring. And until you receive those gifts, those problems will keep reappearing in your life. So I park my initial thoughts over there. Varun, I hope you heard all of that, and we can open up for questions.
Fair enough, Nandu. We did hear we did hear what you said. A couple of words got missed out in the middle, but I think largely we got this. Let me start. Let me start with the question that we do have on the chat, and then let me also go to some of the questions that were been asked in advance. Lalit has asked the question that if we've already made a mistake where we have gone for a role which we thought was a dream role, I assume he meant a dream role on campus, but the company and the role didn't turn out to be, the company specifically didn't turn out to be a good working environment. How do we approach it in that sense, in this case?
Very good question, Lalit. Very good question. And look, uh, two and well, the third thing, which is
So, Ananda, we lost you on these two things.
so-called important roles, the high-profile roles. Yeah. So let me repeat, Varun. So
Yeah, thank you.
three things to talk about. One is the role. Second is the culture. Third is the values. So on the role, on the choice of role, a lot of people want to go for the high profile roles because they're glamorous, because everybody wants them. In my experience, it's a lot better to take the roles that nobody else wants because those businesses are in trouble. And that's a great opportunity to take risks, showcase your talent, turn the business around, and exceed expectations from everybody. You got that on roles, Varun?
Yes, absolutely.
The second part is on culture. Culture is very important because at the end of the day, no matter what role you take, if you have a strategy or decisions that you have taken, the execution of that strategy and decisions is entirely dependent on culture. People say culture eats strategy for breakfast. And this is basically what they mean, that the execution is fundamentally dependent on culture. So if the culture is toxic, then your strategy is not going to get executed. So ask yourself, is the culture one where I will learn? Is the culture one where I can grow as a professional, as an individual? Is it a culture where I feel trusted? If the answer is no, maybe you're in the wrong place. And that brings me to the point number 3, which is values, the most important thing on values. If you find at any point of time a mismatch on values, you see fundamental values that you have, either on ethics or on the way people have to be treated, and you see a big mismatch with the company, well, look for an option, look for another job, move on. For if you're a good, solid professional, there will be options available. Varun?
Sure. A related question that that someone had asked on this issue was the fact that they figured out that this is not a role that they would like to be in for a long period of time, but since they've only spent a few months there, they feel that this is a bit of they feel that this might not be taken very well on their CV, that they quit within a few months. How should a person navigate the issue in a scenario like this?
Ask yourself, are you learning? If you are learning, then you can stay in the role a little longer. If you are not learning, and if every day that you go to office becomes a chore, becomes something that you really do not enjoy, then it's okay to move.
Sure. Fair enough. Now, This is Shilka. I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. She says, how should one figure out our way ahead after a failure when we're not clear which way to move or which path to choose?
It's a good question, Shilka. Good question. And it's difficult for me to give you a remote answer of which path is going to open up. But take an inventory of your strengths. There is a very nice article written in the Harvard Business Review by a colleague of mine from London Business School. She's the head of the OB faculty, Hermina Ibarra. I'll send a link to Varun, and he can share it with you when you get laid off. And she basically says 5 things you need to do. First is embrace the period in between jobs. Shit has happened. Now embrace that period to start developing. First, take inventory of your strengths. Second, start identifying the new capabilities you need to build and go out and start to build those capabilities. The second thing she says, is start to do a lot of experimentation, do a lot of trials of and these days it's not so hard to do trials with startups and internships to figure out if there's a new direction that might appeal to you. Third, she says, build a support group who can help you and help you prepare for all of this that you wish to do. Uh, I've kind of lost point numbers 4 and 5 off the top of my head. I'll try and look for it, but I will send it in any case to Varun, and he will share it with you. Is that okay?
Sure, Nandu. We'll do that absolutely. One question that comes up a lot in the points that you're making is this,
Yeah, sorry, I got it.
embracing.
I have it with me.
Sure, go ahead.
Varun, I have the 5 things with me. May I go? So first is develop many possible selves of who you could be. This is ideas on what you might become, who you might become. Because the path to your next career may not be a straight line, may be circuitous. Second, embrace the liminal period, the period between past and an uncertain future. And it's a good time to focus on your skills, improving yourself, improving your cognitive processes, as well as building new skills. Third, get going on projects. Do something on the side, cultivate skills, resources, and relationships. Particularly try to do new and different work. Four, work your dormant ties. You all have a huge network. Reach out to them, people you do not know so well or do not meet so often. They can be the source of new information and resources for you. And five, talk it out. Solitary introspection without active experimentation is daydreaming. Talk it out loud in social exchanges with people who respond, sympathize, commiserate, question, and share their own experiences. So, 5 steps. And it's from
Super.
Hermina Ibarra, it's on Harvard Business Review, and it's called Reinventing Your Career in Disruptive Times.
Super, Nandu. These are some great points that are made in this article. One of the themes that seem to be sort of transcending different questions is this embracing the positive attitude. In this case, you talked about, the past and an uncertain future, and the biggest one of the biggest challenges that come about is the fear that people have, fear of failure, fear of not knowing how things will turn out or whether they'll be good enough to go forward. Can you share something from your own journey in terms of, what has worked for you when you've been fearful of certain situations?
Yeah, look, fear of failure is very real and it can be paralyzing. The only thing I would say is in today's reality, the biggest risk is to do nothing. Because if you do nothing, then there will be a tsunami that's going to run you over in any case. The tsunami of change that is headed your way. In my career, what I found, and I failed many times, as I said, each time I failed, I tried to make sure that that was the last time I failed in that particular way. So take the learning. So use those failures as an opportunity to learn first. Second is when you have to do these failures, remember even Herbina Ibarra talks about work on a lot of projects. So do a lot of small experiments. So if you have to fail, fail fast and fail small. So then you take the learnings from those and then build it up. The third thing, and this is again coming back to attitude, it's a very big piece of learning on failure is our biggest devil is in our own mind, where we say, what will people think because I failed? Well, go out, look them in the eye and say, I failed, and this is what I learned, and this is what I'm going to do now, and do it. People will have including you yourself, will have a lot more respect for you. Look back at your own life. Look back at your own life, and you will realize the truth, the truism in this, of how many times what you feel most proud about are actually how you have yourself bounced back from failures. So you can do it, but get the support group to help you to do it.
Yeah, that's all right. And I think that there are aspects here of immediately doing something and building yourself up for the long term, and both those tasks are are sort of critical. In the immediate sense, just seeking support from the social group are important, like you said. Doing activities and getting some stuff done, whether it's on projects or something, it gives you that reassurance that you're making progress. Getting these little things that put you in a good mental space, I think that it can vary for different people. I think that's there. And then the long term piece is essential in terms of just making sure that every failure you're able to like you said, be honest and figure out what has happened, and so therefore what learnings could be taken about. Fantastic, Nandu. The next question I'm going to pick is a little
One of
bit.
the builds, one of the builds, yeah, Varun, one of the builds I'd like to offer on that point is when you have failure, if you say, I won, the other guys cheated, then you aren't going to take any learning from that failure. So, attribution of failure, taking responsibility for it, taking responsibility for your part forward from that failure.
Uh, Nandu, the network was a little bit up and down on that one. What we understood is you mentioned that you should take responsibility for your own
Over to you.
actions, and what we got was that one should take responsibility for their own actions when it comes to failures, and not attribute it to external items, or not see a personal role in those. Was there an additional point that you made? Hey, Nandu, can you hear us? Can you hear me specifically? We're just waiting for him, guys. We're just waiting for Nandu to connect. This should take just a few seconds. Hey Nandu, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Super. So we got what we understood was you mentioning that one should take personal responsibility for the actions that contributed to a particular failure and not blame it on external factors only. Is there a nuance that I'm missing
That's
there?
it.
Or
No, that's it. I mean, like a certain president we know.
ex-president, hopefully. All right.
Yeah.
So this one is a very specific question from Kushal. Uh, so he's one of our students for the professional brand management program as well. And he's asked, when one continues to evolve and learn more, one often faces a dilemma: super specialization versus a holistic general role. How does one sort of make that decision?
Kushal, there's a role for both. Uh, the, the super specialization is very useful.
Sorry, Nanda, we just
Yeah, Varun,
lost you.
can you hear me?
Yeah, we just lost you after you said that there's a role for both.
Yeah, there's a role for both. Super specialization is good if you are specializing in an emerging discipline or field. If you're super specialized in a field that is already 10, 15 years old, then you are running a high risk of becoming obsolete. So it's important in that context to also build your general management skills. Passion, those are fundamental skills you should build in regardless of whether you're a super specialist or a generalist.
Sure. I think that's a great point, Nandu. And if I can add something here, Kushal, I like to take in cricketing analogies, and you can say that in a T20 match, you could succeed as a Virat Kohli, or you could succeed as an Andrew Russell, and both are excellent T20 players. One is far more classical than the other. But both need all the shots, both need to understand how to play, and so on and so forth, right? So in that sense, you can also build in a little bit about what works for you personally. If you are the kind of person who likes to go in depth into something which is very emerging, then a super specialization in that sense, like Nandu said, could be amazingly successful strategy, or vice versa. You could also go for a slightly more general role. It's also a little bit contextual to what kind of personality and what kind of preferences you have. Like Nandu said, the base level things need to be there in place before you can succeed with either of these strategies. All right. All right, I'll keep the questions coming in. This one is from Nitin. So he has a career gap of 16 months after MBA from an old IM. And this was essentially because he was preparing for civil services. Um, uh, any any suggestions there? What people report is that essentially they find it hard to justify this gap to potential recruiting managers.
You should be honest about this. Tell people what you did. You took time off to do the civil service. Everybody in India will understand that. That's not a problem. I took time off. I took a few months off to do civil service. I talked about it. I explained it. And nobody held it against me at that time, almost 40 years ago.
Sure. Sounds good. All right. Another interesting question comes in from Shubham. How can one gauge the culture of a startup with limited set of information available in order to evaluate if it aligns with an individual's working style?
Yeah, what you could do, particularly with startups, is you could ask to meet the people there, and maybe shadow them for a week or two before you make up your mind and jump in. It will probably be appreciated by the founders, and it's good for both of you that you get a good feel and they get a good feel for you, because then it's much more likely to work well as a partnership. Otherwise, go talk to people who left the company, go talk to people who have been in the company for a while, and you get a good idea of the culture and the styles. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. If there's a couple of things I can add in here, I think it also helps to go to the social public social profiles of the founders. Twitter and LinkedIn is something that most founders use to cascade information about what they're doing, and I think that's a great place to sort of also understand what the founders value. In any startup, the culture is largely founder driven. So if you were to go in and work in a company like Nestle, that's not going to be driven necessarily by the CEO in a large way, because it's a large professionally run company. It's been around for 100 years. But when it comes to startup, the culture is largely set by the founder, and you can, wherever they're sort of sharing their story, that story will tell you what that company really values, right? So in that sense, that piece of information is pretty useful. One thing that you want to be sort of a little bit wary of is basing a decision on a small sample set. So for instance, if you're working, if you're looking at Glassdoor reviews, you want at least a sizable sample of those reviews for you to know whether something is good or not, right? If there are only 5 or 6 reviews about a company, then it goes neither this way nor that way. Yeah. So I find that hearing it directly from the founders would actually be a pretty good way of determining which way to go in. Okay. Shobit asked Nandu, this is something that a lot of people also sort of struggle with, because when they try to put advice into action, the question that all right, guys, I've just lost him for a second. This has been, I know, a little bit challenging. So once again, I'd like to apologize. And I'm very grateful for everyone who's been sort of patiently listening in. So we'll just wait for a few seconds until he can, until he can join in. I can see he's just about to join in.
Can you hear me?
Hi, Nandu, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Sorry.
Super.
I lost connectivity.
No worries. So Shobit's question is, when you're looking for a change in the role, how to be 100% sure that the other role will be a right fit for you?
You are never 100% sure. But look, ask yourself, in that role, in the new role, is it within your comfort zone or is it out of your comfort zone? And then look at your current state of mind. Are you in your current life stage? Do you want to still stay within your comfort zone, or would you like to stretch yourself to learn new skills? So depending on that, you can have a good starting point of whether you should jump into the new role or not. The second thing to look at is look at the boss in your current role and in your new role. See what is that boss's leadership style, management style, talk to their subordinates, and figure out if it is a style that you would like to work with. Because most of us when we are dissatisfied with a particular role, more often than not, it is actually a dissatisfaction with the style of the boss. So that is something you can easily check out. Varun?
Super, Nando. Agree with that 100%. All right. Next question comes in from Ranjika. I hope I pronounced that correctly. So she's been working retail for a year and a half and is trying to get into FMCG. But most companies in FMCG want people with that background. Any suggestions on what's the best way to do a sectoral shift?
Doing so well in with a 100 crore rupee run rate of sales for the year. Look at
So, Anandu, we've just lost that answer completely.
so many people like you who could come in and yeah, Varun.
Yeah, can you repeat that answer one more time? We've not been able to capture most of it thus far.
Yeah. Look, I said, look at the startup space. There are so many successful FMCG companies these days that are startups. So the Momsco is one example. Mama Earth is one example. They're all looking for, that's a good place to start.
Super.
Because
I
they're
think
building the FMCGs of tomorrow.
Yeah, super, Nandu. I think we just lost a few words, but we got the essence of the answer. I think startups are absolutely the best way to sort of figure this piece out. Ranjika, in general, what people want when they're recruiting lateral candidates is that they want them to deliver from day one. So the more overlap you can find between your current role and new role, the better your chances. And the lesser the overlap, the more risk you will have to take, and risk also means potentially earning less for a little bit of time. So if there is a way that you can leverage that retail experience in any of the FMCG brands, because some FMCG or consumer brands do want to build a retail presence as well, then it's amazing. Otherwise, startups is a very effective way, and a lot of people have made that switch as well. So think of the long term, and like Nandu said, there is higher openness with these companies, and both the companies he's mentioned, Momsco and Mama Earth, they're doing quite well. So the companies start small, but they tend to do pretty well, and then you have an entry point. Super. Nandu, Jay has a very interesting one. So he says how to approach salary negotiations for a marketing role. If one is having an unemployment gap of more than 6 months, he's upgraded skills in the pandemic, but he's not sure how he can showcase it in front of recruiters. Nandu, can you hear us? All right, guys. I think that we're sort of struggling. We'll try one more time. Nandu, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm here. Now I can hear you. Yes.
Super. So Jay's, can you see Jay's question, or do you want me to just voice it out once?
I heard you briefly and it went again.
Okay, so basically he was asking how should one approach salary negotiations for a marketing role if they're having an unemployment gap of more than 6 months. In these 6 months, he's upgraded his skills in this period, but he's not sure how to sort of showcase it in front of recruiters.
Jay's question, how to approach salary employment gap of more than 6 months. I'm the wrong person to answer this question because I have question.
Okay, so then let me take one final question from Nikita. Nandu, can you hear us? Can you hear me? All right, guys, I think there might be some trouble at Nandu's end. The network has been going up and down, so I apologize once again for that. Let me try to add him one more time. Nandu, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm here. I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. So Nikita's question is,
I
if
can
someone
hear
takes
you.
a gap due to mental... Awesome. So Nikita's question is, if someone takes a gap due to mental health issues, how to restart again after that? In such a case, the truth really isn't appreciated because talking about mental health is still a big stigma.
Yeah, that it is. That it is. I do not have experience in this regard personally, uh, and it's a difficult one, Nikita. Again, you might want to actually become a contract worker or start to offer doing projects rather than becoming a full-time employee till you build the credibility, and then it may become a lot easier. But start by doing projects, start by doing smaller assignments, shorter assignments, and that may help you build a track record that will help you get employed again full-time. Does that
Yeah.
help?
Yeah, I think Nandu, you're absolutely right. I think projects is something that would be a good way even for the individual to also build back their confidence.
Exactly.
The trouble here is that, if you were to hide this information from a recruiter and they find out later, it will be a huge credibility loss and not acting in good faith, essentially. So this one is a difficult one, but just doing projects, building up the confidence for yourself, for the companies as well that you can highlight, I think that might be the best way to go about it. And the good part is that a lot of major companies are now working with contractual folks on contractual basis. In fact, Unilever very famously runs a program for women specifically, who want to work part-time, right? So that would be the best way to go about it here. Super, Nandu. I know that this has been a difficult period for you, and I know that the connection has been up and down. So we will sort of end the session here. But I deeply appreciate the time that you've taken out and the effort that it has taken to repeat some of the points in. Your perspective is always valuable, and we'd love to have you again in better circumstances with better internet connection.
Thank you, Varun. Appreciate that. Thank you, everybody. And my apologies once again for the way we connected.
Thank you very much, Nandu. And guys, if you like some of the insights, please do subscribe to Nandu's page. It's called Insights with Nandu. It's an excellent page. Lots of videos coming in there. And we would be connecting next Tuesday again. This time, I'm taking a session on 8:20. Some of the questions are unaddressed, so what we will try and do is we'll try and answer them. So if you can email them to hi@kraftshala.com, we'll get a perspective from Nandu, or if possible, if relevant, we'll get his perspective. Otherwise, we'll revert to you in any case, right? All right, guys.